Abortion is one of three bones of contention that are very similar, it seems to me. Abortion, the death penalty. Conservatives say that the state has the right to kill a killer, essentially, which makes then the state no different than the killer. They don't want to look at it that way. But that's essentially what would happen.
Most countries have outlawed the death penalty.
Right.
In most of Europe, there is no death penalty.
Right. And that, like the abortion situation, is, from their point of view, the state should impose rule over the individual decision, which is to say, in abortion, in the case of abortion, conservatives would say that the state should stop a woman from controlling her own reproduction and force a woman to go along with what the state wants her to do. In the case of the death penalty, they're in favor of that, the state deciding when a prisoner should die, even a murderer. And the third decision, or the third instance, which I think is very similar to this, conservatives are saying that they want to control how long an individual citizen may live. If the citizen wants to kill himself because he's in massive pain from a disease like cancer, or a number of things possibly, they maintain that the state should control the individual's right to end his own life. Can you touch on where you are versus where conservatives consistently are, which is the state controlling the individual over life and death issues?
Well, I'm opposed to them on all 3 points. I believe in freedom. I'm opposed to the death penalty. I would go along with all of the European countries and outlaw the death penalty. Prison can be a sufficient punishment. Life in prison is a more severe punishment, I think, than the death penalty.
I agree.
And a woman should have a right to choose. Remember, she has to spend the next 20 years of her life taking care of a child. And that gives her, I think, the right to decide whether or not she wants to be a mother. Therefore, I would say that she should have the right to an abortion if she wants one. As far as the end of life, I'm in favor of the Swiss style death with dignity law. This allows a doctor, after examination and consultation, to terminate the life of a patient when everyone agrees that recovery is impossible and the continued existence is painful and degrading, and the patient chooses to end their life. I think Dr. Kevorkian was performing a great service, and it's a tragedy that American society should imprison a man like that, which is serving his patients and serving society as a whole. And in Switzerland, he would not have been, everything he did would have been legal. And I would like to see a law like that passed in Vermont. Mm-hmm. Oregon has gone halfway, and the Oregon law is good, but it is not as good as Switzerland. Americans are going to Switzerland to take advantage of that law, and anyone should not be forced to leave their family and go to a foreign country where a foreign language is spoken at the end of life just because they don't want to die in horrible, painful situation. They should be allowed to terminate their life here in Vermont.
Another example of how Americans have to leave the country that they can't control in order to stop massive pain by dying in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, along with this is the conservative love of police and the state controlling drug use. how far would you go in ending this war on drugs, or would you?
Well, on my 2 years ago, I went to the National Lawyers Guild Convention in southern Vermont, and there was a group there called LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and they talked to us for an hour or more, and but they had a 10-minute video that they gave me, and I asked for permission to play that on my TV show here in Vermont, here in Burlington, and I have put that on, added that at the end of a number of my shows. So I think there's something like, from that 10-minute segment, has had over 40 hours of airtime here in Vermont as a result of being my adding it to the end of my TV shows. I absolutely agree with the people at LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. These are police officers who have worked as enforcers of the war on drugs, and they have unequivocally said that the war on drugs is a failure and it is wrong, and we should stop the war on drugs and repeal the drug laws. I would go with a Swiss-style system where drugs would be made available from the state by prescription in drugstores. We would end the illegal importation, the criminal element in the drugs, because the state would provide them at low cost. We would treat drug addiction as a medical problem. And I am totally opposed to the use of drugs. I have never tried any of them. I've never tried marijuana. I've never tried anything stronger. But to legislate a war on drugs is absolutely wrong. And it's as wrong as prohibition was. It's even worse than prohibition. And we need to deal with it in a totally different way, as a medical problem.
So heroin, crack, opium, meth would be available to addicts?
Yes, along with medical care. Now, I would work to adjust things to try to reduce or eliminate any use of drugs, but we wouldn't do it with a war on drugs. We would do it as a medical problem, because anyone who uses drugs is destroying themselves. And we would look at reasons like Ramsey Clark's old book on the causes of crime in America. Why do people use drugs? Why do people commit crimes? Well, I see it as a problem of the society, of the inequitable distribution of wealth. If a person is denied an opportunity in life, and they have a hopeless future, then there is reasonable to expect that they're going to turn to something like crime or drugs. But if everyone is given an opportunity in life, it would be stupid for them to do this. It would be insane. They would need a psychological counseling if they use drugs or committed crimes. The way to deal with it is as in that way, and as a socialist solution.
Especially in the situation where the United States government has been proven through the CIA to be massive drug importers, to benefit, to pump enormous amounts of cash into Wall Street. I imagine you've read these or read of these exposés that have occurred periodically in newspapers over the last 20, 25 years.
Of course, we don't know exactly what's going on, but I believe that the governments are responsible for the supply of the drugs on the black market. That there are cities where it is known that if you want to get heroin or opium, you buy it from the police car. And where do the police get it? Well, they get it from raids, and they also get it from possibly the CIA. So by having the government supply the drugs, I would not be changing things very much. The only thing is I would change would be it would be above board instead of illegally, and the drugs would become very cheap, and it would be a case of transparency in the government.